It's chapter 2, living with the devil. So she convinced him, manipulated him, made him feel like he was the only thing in the world that mattered, and got him to pick up his whole life, leave his friends and his life, his job, everything, to move to this small town and try a new life with something that he thought was forever. He started feeling emotions for this woman. He was falling for her. And she got him in her grasp. She knew that he was the type that if he said something, well, that was his word. He would do everything to keep it. She's seen how he raised his son from a previous relationship, how good of a father he was. She's seen how good of a man he was, how hard worker of a man he was, the type of person he was to the public, helps people out, he'd give the shirt off his back. She made him promise one night during sexual activities that he would never give up on her. And not seeing that as a huge red flag off the bat, he promised that he would never give up on her. And that's when she had him in her grasp. So he moves in. The day he moved in, she has her little children with her, her 2 little sons from 2 previous fathers with her, and red flags start coming in more that he was just blinding himself to. She started picking fights with his friends while he was trying to move, and he literally had to tell her to leave so he could finish moving his stuff, because she almost got herself beat up because of her mouth from his friends. And she would start to use that, once he moved in with her, as a way to stop him from seeing any of his friends. So within the first couple months of moving in with her, she had put a full stop to that. He was not allowed to see or talk to his friends. He had to focus his life on them and their family now. He would go to work, drive into the city every day, and he would come home after work and he would start noticing the person that she was before they lived together was starting to dwindle. She was sleeping all day. He would come home from work, he would have to clean the house, he would have to cook dinner for the children, he would have to, if she was asleep, he'd have to wake her up. And this started causing issues and arguments, which led to more abuse by his abuser. He would notice, he would come home from work early and she'd be sleeping in her room with the door closed, and her children, her 2 kids, would be locked with a hook lock in their rooms, screaming, yelling to be let out while she would sleep. The kitchen would be a disaster. He would have to start every day, whether coming home from work or waking up in the morning, every day that he was at home, that he had time at home, he would have to start by cleaning the house. And he started noticing the neglect of parenting from this woman to her children. They were 4 years old and 6 years old, and they were still wearing diapers. And this would continue on until her one son was almost 10 years old, still wearing diapers, peeing the beds and their clothes every night. She would let them walk down the street and just go pee on people's lawns and so forth like that. And if somebody had an issue with it, she would get very verbally abusive and ready to fight these people, that it would cause issues in their relationship, because he would see this attitude and this personality of hers that he didn't see at the beginning when he wasn't living with her. And he would start seeing this and seeing this abuse, and that's not the type of person he is. That kind of actions is very unnecessary. And then he would start seeing more and more abuse towards the children, and the only way for him to stop the abuse towards the children was to start an argument with her. So she would end up turning her abuse onto him. The argument he would start would literally be simple as, what she's doing is wrong. She can't treat her children like that. And that he would refuse to let her treat his child like that. She would start to show her true colors, and he would start to see her actions and her relationships with her son's father. Turns out that her youngest son and his father, she was very abusive to him as well. And he started seeing that when he would come pick up his son. She would see the abuse by him, the way she would talk to him, the way she would degrade him right in front of his son, the way she would be physical right in front of the child. And it was very ugly of her. And he was seeing her true colors. And he would start noticing inconsistencies of stories of where she would get her money from, to the point he found out the only cleaning company that she kind of even did was she was cleaning men's houses, only men, but they were giving her extras as tip, as she would call it. She was getting paid, close to $100 extra for a tip. So this kind of felt a little fishy and suspicious. And he would question her. He questioned her 100%. And she would make him feel like a piece of crap for even bringing it up. And deny cheating and stuff. He would apologize for bringing it up. And she knew she had him in her grasp. She knew she could. When they would get to an argument, he would get ready to leave, or he would be reminded consistently of how she had him promise that he would never give up on her. So this would go on for months, and the abuse would get worse and worse, to the point where she was being physically abusive. He would watch her be physically abusive to her children, which he could not stand. And he would get in the middle of it, and she'd end up being physically abusive to him. And he would take it, because a man will take the abuse over watching the children be abused. And this would continue. And it would continue for months. And then one day, he saw one of the most ugliest acts a man or a woman could ever do. And her son's father, her youngest son's father, came to pick him up for his time with his son. And during that pickup, she would get very physically abusive with him and with his mother. So with her son's grandmother, she would choke her out and slam her to the ground, be physical, tried to beat up her son's grandmother while her 5-year-old son was less than 5 feet away watching, screaming at her, "Mommy, mommy, please stop. You're hurting my grandma. Please stop hurting my grandma." There was a police report done about this issue, about this situation. The police were involved. Her other son who was a little bit older, she would tell him that his father is useless, wants nothing to do with him, he's a deadbeat, and so forth. But yet, he would find out that not only was her oldest son's father paying child support, but she was refusing to see him, to let her son see his father. And when he would threaten court, she would threaten actions and social media actions to destroy his life and so forth. Which he's seen as another red flag, but blinded himself for it. Again, out of desperation or something, but he blinded himself from it, because she would say the same thing to him. She would tell him constantly, if he left her and didn't live up to his promise of never giving up on her, that she would ruin his life via social media. And she has been trying. Her and her sister have been trying, but he doesn't care. He knows the people that actually know him know the truth. So her oldest son would find out he's got a friend in his classroom, and that friend in his classroom, his mother would neglect to tell him was his half-brother. The mental abuse this woman has given to her children, the emotional abuse, the physical abuse this woman was giving to her children, he was watching just destroy them. They were becoming very angry. They were becoming very confused. They were becoming very jealous of any other child with a father. and they would pick on that child. He would bring his son from his other relationship out so he could spend time with him, and she would not allow him to spend time with his son by themselves. She told him it was not allowed. She had to involve, or he had to involve everybody, and he would try to do so, and she would have comments of to her older son of look, he's a good dad to his children, and she would just mentally rub things in, which would confuse her oldest son more and make him more frustrated and angry, that he would start bullying his son from a previous relationship. This this would continue for months, and he was trapped. He he had nowhere to go. He was trapped. Him and his son were stuck. And he just kept thinking of the children, trying to thought if he stuck around a little longer, it would help protect the children longer. And in the long run, it didn't. She got so comfortable knowing she had him under her pinky that she would do anything she wanted, and she would lie to him. She would cheat on him. He would find out that the clients that she was cleaning their houses, she was getting paid extra, not for tip, but because she was having sex with these men. So in this time that they were together, he would find out that she was cheating on him, and later on down the line, he would find out that she cheated on him with over 30 men. And he was confused. He was broke. He didn't know what to do. There was a separation. He did try to leave, had to have the police involved because she would not let him leave. He had to have the police involved. The police showed up just so that he can get him and his son out the door. So he had his boss come and pick from the city, come and pick him and his son up, so they can get out while the police were there. That was the only way for him to be able to get out. And then during that time that he was gone, he should have listened to himself. He should have listened to his gut and stayed away. But she promised that she would go through counseling. She promised she would do couples counseling. She promised she would do anything she could to be better, to become better, and to be better for us, to be better for the family. She didn't want to be like this anymore. She's been a serial abuser her whole life. She didn't want to be an abuser no more. She would sit there in tears, manipulating, mind controlling. So he decided, fine, we're going to try to work things out again. Which, at that point, that was her last chance to lock everything in for good. And at that point, that's when living with the devil became dangerous for him and the children. she got pregnant during the time of her cheating. But at this point, he didn't know full out of all the cheating. At this point, he felt like her pregnancy was his, like the children were his. But the dark truth came out. The dark truth of who she really was about to show. When he got back, he was about to be punished for leaving or trying to leave. She had him. She knew she did. And he didn't know how strong he really was. He didn't know his value. She beat him down of it. She beat him down of his value, of his confidence, of his self-worth. She would tell him that without her, he would never be with anybody. He'll never find anybody again. He was ugly. He would just she would constantly just put him down. He was constantly being degraded, put down, made to feel like a nothing. To the point where there was many times at work where he would stay at work or he would go drive around for a few hours and he would sneakingly go see his friends. And for a few hours, he just didn't want to go home. He was afraid to go home. He didn't want to go through the abuse. He didn't want to go. Like this woman was slowly putting him in the grave. He was having health issues. He thought he was going through heart attacks at times, or like we're gonna have heart attacks at times. His stress level was it was out the roof, and he had nobody. She had him locked in. Next week will be chapter 3. The consequences of trying to leave an abuser and what the abusers will do to you if you do try to leave. The outcome of what men are really going through. And not all men, but men in abusive relationships are going through and being forced to stay silent because the system is corrupt and broken. And with chapter 3 and chapter 4, we'll be starting to show the evidence to go with everything that's been going on. The evidence of the corrupted system, the evidence of a gender-favored system, family court system, children's aid system. Names are going to start getting named because it's very important the public knows these people, from the judges to the lawyers to the children's aid workers to the abuser and her family as well. The public needs to know these people, and evidence will be starting coming out on chapter 3 and chapter 4. And not just simple evidence that'll show that if a man did any of this stuff to a woman, he would have been locked up. And many lawyers have questioned the evidence that I have in the sense of how has she gotten away with so much. And that was because he was forced to represent himself in the long run because he couldn't get a lawyer. And the evidence will show night and day corruption, gender favoritism, and illegal actions on multiple sides, from her and her family to her friends to children's aid and children's aid workers to the family court services, judges, lawyers. So stay tuned, because the real ugly stuff is about to come out. No man or woman deserves what this woman put this man through. No child deserves what this woman put her children through, and still puts her children through, and gets away with it because she's a female and she has the support of a gender-favored system. This is what we're supposed to be as parents and as human beings are supposed to be fighting against, is abusers, man or woman, abusers like her that do these things to their children, and especially women abusers that are getting away with this abuse to men and children, all because they're females. Stay tuned. Chapter 3 will be coming out next week. The outcome of trying to leave, and what violence she'll actually go to, an extreme she'll go to for her abuse. It was hard for him to deal with this, especially because she's bipolar with mood disorders to the point of could be split personalities, and on medication for that stuff. So he didn't know this stuff at the beginning. He was very edgy on how to act around her because he didn't know what was going to set her off. He would watch this woman be violent with old people. She was trying to kill animals. She was killing, like, letting her cats out in the winter, not letting them in, put the cats out to die. That the neighborhood and the animal control and that actually was in contact with her, and I know they were talking about charging her or threatening to fine her or whatever for the animal abuse she was doing at the time. It's not just children and men. Like, this woman is an abuser to men, children, elderly, and animals. She's been an abuser her whole life, a serial abuser her whole life. Everything that she's been doing, her mom did to her dad, and her dad allowed it. Her dad didn't give a shit. He allowed it because he's not really a dad to look up to. He's just, one of those chump dads, piece of crap dads kind of deal. He didn't give a shit about his kids, and he was allowing his ex-wife to cheat on him with him in the house. So he had zero self-respect, zero self-worth, and so you can't really teach your kids to have, and you can't be a proper parent or a proper role model to your children when you're allowing that kind of abuse. And he would allow it. So it's not something that was something she just started. It was something that she's been doing for years, since schooling, as she would grow up. And it's sad. And the world needs less people like this. Abusers deserve to be full punished. Doesn't matter if it's a woman or a man. If a woman is going to be an abuser, she deserves the same justice that a man would get. That's all there is to it. Just because she carried the child means jack shit, because she still needs a man's sperm inside of her. just because she carried a child means jack shit, because 90% out there in a broken home, the children do better off with the father, not the mother, because the mother is, chances are, going to turn out to be either abusive or run everything off emotions, or they don't know how to teach the respect. They don't know how to teach discipline. They don't know how to teach the children what fathers can teach them. Just like a father can't teach a child what a mother needs to teach them. It works both ways. But when you got good fathers out there being punished just for being a dad, just for being born with a dick, and being punished and having their children taken away because the mother carried them, well, come on. Change needs to happen, because our kids are being punished because gender favored court systems like Woodstock Family Court, gender favored children's aid systems like workers like Elizabeth Katsubik from Woodstock, Oxford County Children's Aid. These types of people, they should not be involved with any child's life, and they should not be allowed to have children themselves, because they're enabling and condoning child abuse to others. So what's happening in their home, they're probably doing the same thing. So next week, chapter 3. It'll be chapter 3 will be the showing of who she really was. It'll be the breaking point of her violent attacks. It'll be the breaking point of when she's finally arrested and he's finally free. Police reports, evidence, and so forth will all be provided during chapter 3 and chapter 4.